Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a Sky Striker deck profile. So I'm really excited for this one because we're actually going to be doing a giveaway in this video. We're actually going to be giving away one of these amazing playmats courtesy of Apollo's Dueling Dojo, which you guys have not checked out. It is down in the description below for all of Apollo's Dueling Dojo's links, where you can get all sorts of really amazing things like these playmats. You can get some really amazing field series that you probably see me use in the live duels, and these playmats are amazing. I absolutely love these playmats. They are really nice, and we're actually gonna be giving it away to one lucky winner down in the comments, and all you have to do is be subscribed to DarkArmedDuelist, like this video, and comment down below what your favorite Sky Striker card is. I am so excited to give back to the community a little bit to give out one of these playmats, and thank you so much Apollo's Dueling Dojo for sending me one of these to give to one lucky winner, because this is actually going to be amazing. But if you guys want to check out the official rules, they are down in the description below. Definitely check those out. But without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can come part notifications, and definitely check out the Patreon in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name description in a single video, getting a signed card to the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron, along with test hands. And again, if you guys want to enter to win to get one of these amazing playmats, just check out the official rules down in the description below, and definitely check out Apollo's Dueling Dojo's Izzy store down in the description below as well. So without further ado guys, let's get straight on into this deck profile. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Sky Striker Ace Ray. So Ace Ray is one of the best cards in the entire deck. It is the combo starter of the entire deck, and the entire deck revolves around her. You're going to be constantly using this card to be able to go into all your different Sky Striker aces, and this card is one of the best cards in the entire deck, so you have to play her as a 3 of. We then play a single copy of Rose. I just like to play 1 copy of Rose as just a backup play. She's a really good combo starter as well. She's really good as a 1 of. I just like to have the 4 different pilots for the ships, well not the ships, but the suits, which is really important to me. I like to play 1 Rose. Some people just don't play Rose at all, but I like to play 1 in my particular build. We then play a single copy of Pankratops. Pankratops is just an additional special summon to your side of the field, because if your opponent controls a monster and more monsters than you do, you can special summon this card to your side of the field. It can help you board wipe a little bit to be able to pop something, and it does come out as a 2600 monster as well, which is really nice. So for the hand traps, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Nibiru, because this card is really handy just to be able to get rid of problematic fields that your opponent might throw against you, because basically if your opponent summons 5 or more times, you can immediately tribute all monsters on the field, and then be able to special summon a Nibiru to your side of the field and give your opponent a token with the total sum of all the monsters that were tributed on the side of the field, on both players' side of the field, which is really good to be able to just immediately board wipe your opponent. We play 3 copies of Droll and Lockbird. Droll and Lockbird basically says no more adding for the turn, which is really good. 3 copies of Ash Blossom, because it's arguably the best hand trap in the entire game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Because every time your opponent tries to touch the deck, you basically say no, you cannot do that, which is really nice. I love this card. It's probably the best hand trap in the game. And then we play 2 copies of Ghost Bell as well. The 2 copies of Ghost Bell basically stop your opponent from touching the graveyard, which is also very important for this particular deck, to just stop your opponent from touching the graveyard, especially against decks like Drytron. This card is probably one of the best hand traps besides Ash to be able to stop your opponent. Like, all 3 of these are totally combating the meta, which is really good. And the Nibiru is basically just here in case your opponent tries to swarm past any of these cards. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Harpy's Feather Duster. So Harpy's Feather Duster is a great card in this deck. You're going to want to fill your graveyard up with as many spells as possible, because all of your Sky Striker spells gain additional effects off of having additional spells in the graveyard, 3 or more spells, which is really important for this particular deck. We play a single copy of Terraforming, because Terraforming is really good to be able to get your copy of Area 0 from your deck to your hand, which is really an important card. 1 copy of Upstart Goblin. Upstart Goblin is really good to help you draw an additional card and basically play a 39 card deck. 1 copy of Mind Control. Mind Control lets you take an opponent's monster, and when you do take that opponent's monster, it helps you link climb into additional plays, which is very important for this particular deck, to help you link climb into some additional plays in this deck, because usually you're just going to go Kangari Shizuku or Kangari Hayate or into plays like that, but occasionally you're going to want to climb into an access code or a copy of Unicorn, and being able to take an opponent's monster is really good to help you climb into those monsters a little bit easier and fill up the graveyard with additional monsters or additional spells in the grave, which is really nice. But a single copy of Reinforcements of the Army. Rhoda basically basically lets you grab your copies of your ace monsters, like your Ray and your copy of Rose, from your deck to your hand because they're warrior monsters. And then we play a single copy of Metal Foes Fusion. Metal Foes Fusion is actually just here for its final effect, because if this card is in your graveyard, you can shuffle it into the deck, and then you get to draw a card, which is pretty good. And then we play 2 copies of Foolish Burial Goods. Now, the Foolish Burial Goods are basically here just to send your copies of your Metal Foes Fusion to the graveyard. It can send additional cards to the graveyard if you've already sent Metal Foes Fusion, but basically it's here to be kind of like an upstart goblin. You use this to thin the deck a little bit to be able to send your Metal Foes Fusion to the graveyard. And then once you've sent it to the graveyard, you can shuffle it back into the deck to draw a card, which is really nice. I really like to play with that card because basically you're playing 3 upstart goblins in the deck, which is really nice. So that's it for the generic spells. Let's get into the Sky Striker spells. So for the Sky Striker spells, I never thought I would say it again, but we're actually going to be playing a single copy of Engage. So Engage is back at 1. I am so excited to be able to actually play this card. It didn't really sink in when I did the list video of when it actually came off the list, but I am like, this card is insane. Like, it's so easy to roll in this deck. It is so good. So what this card does is if you control no monsters in your main monster zone, you can add a Sky Striker card from your deck to your hand. Literally any Sky Striker card from your deck to your hand, except another copy of itself, which we only can play 1 because it's at 1. Then, if you have 3 or more spells in your graveyard, you get to draw a card. This card single-handedly came off the list, went to 1, and put Sky Striker back at pretty much tier 1 status by putting this card back at 1. Now, this card is really, really insane. It makes the entire deck revolve around it. I don't know if they'll actually put it back at 0. I don't know what they're going to do with this deck. I think that it might just stay at 1 for a while. I hope that they leave it at 1 for now, but we'll see. We're then going to be playing a single copy of Multi-Roll. Multi-Roll is really good because it has the ability to target once per turn, you can target one other card that you control, send that card to the graveyard, and also your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to your spell effects activation for the rest of the turn, even if this card leaves the field, which basically turns all of your cards to speed spell 4s, which is ridiculous. And it also has the ability you can only gain the previous effect of this card once per turn, and then once per turn during the end phase, you can set a Sky Striker spells with different names from your graveyard up to the number of Sky Striker spells that were activated this turn while this card was faced on the field, but banish them when they leave the field. Which this card is just so good to be able to just immediately set all those cards back to your side of the field and just roll through so many cards, which is why it's multi-roll. We then play a single copy of Hornet Drones, which just gets an additional token on our side of the field, but if we do have 3 or more spells, it does gain 1500 attack. This card just basically goes into additional link plays. I play a single copy of Hercules Base. Hercules Base does come in handy sometimes because it has the ability to activate this card only if you control no monsters in your main monster zone, and the equipped monster cannot attack directly, and it can make 2 attacks during each battle phase, which is pretty good. And if you have 3 or more spells in the graveyard, you get to draw a card as well when it destroys a monster by attacking it, which is pretty good. And if this card is sent to the graveyard, sent from the field to the graveyard by a card effect, then you get to target up to 3 Sky Striker cards in the grave, and then shuffle them into the deck, which is pretty good to be able to pot of average your cards back. I play 1 Eagle Booster as well, because if you control no monsters, you can target 1 face-up monster on the field, and the target is unaffected by card effects this turn, except its own, and if you have 3 or more spells in the graveyard, it can't be destroyed by battle this turn either. I play 2 copies of Afterburner. Afterburner lets you target a face-up monster your opponent controls and destroy it. If you have 3 or more spells, you can destroy a spell or trap on the field as well, which is really good just to be able to pop spells and traps as well with Afterburner. We then play 3 copies of Widow Anchor. Widow Anchor is so important for this deck at 3. Like, this deck is so... I can't believe we have 3 Widow Anchor and 1 Engage again. Like, that is just insane to me that we have all this power with this deck. And what this card does is if you control no monsters in your main monster zone, you get to target 1 face-up effect monster on the field, negate that face-up monster's effect, and then if you have 3 or more spells in the graveyard, you get to take control of that opponent's monster as well. That's crazy that you just get to take the card as well. We then play 3 copies of Shark Cannon. Shark Cannon is so good in this deck too because what this card does is if you control no monsters in your main monster zone, you get to target 1 monster on your opponent's graveyard and banish it, or if you have 3 or more spells, then you can special summon that target to your field instead. It's Monster Reborn! What? That's crazy! We then play 3 copies of Area Zero. Area Zero is a really good field spell because it has the ability that you get to target a card that you control, excavate the top 3 of your deck, and if you do, you get to add 1 excavated Sky Striker card, and then shuffle the rest back into the deck. And if you excavate a Sky Striker card, you send this card, or you send the targeted card to the graveyard. And if this card in your field spell zone is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you get to special summon 1 Sky Striker Ace monster from your deck, which is really good just to be able to get your copies of Ray to your side of the field. Really, really good lineup. I really like the way this deck has turned out so far. The only thing that I've considered putting in here is Cosmic Cyclone and maybe changing out the mind control for maybe like a Monster Reborn. Like that's the only thing I've really thought about maybe changing in the deck at all, because it's really good as it stands because you can roll with a lot of the cards. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the extra deck because you don't play any traps in this particular build. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Kangari. Kangari is really important for this particular deck because it has the ability that if this card is special summoned, you get to target 1 Sky Striker spell in the graveyard and add it back to your hand. And then it gains 100 attack for each spell in your graveyard. You can only use effect this card once per turn. So basically you activate Engage, search Ray, normal summon the Ray, and then immediately link for the copy of Kangari. Kangari adds Engage back to hand. Okay, that's a little crazy. Like, that's a simple combo for this particular deck. Obviously, it can get a little bit more crazy than that, but that's a very simple play to actually roll your 1 copy of Engage over and over and over again with your copy of Kangari. We then play 3 copies of Shizuku. Shizuku is always a 3 of. It has the ability that monster opponent controls lose 100 attack for each spell in the grave, and then once per turn, during the end phase, if this card was special summon, this turn, you get to add 1 Sky Striker spell from your deck to your hand, which is pretty good with a different name from cards in your graveyard, which, hey, that looks like I'm grabbing Engage directly from the deck. We then play 3 copies of Hayate as well. Hayate can actually attack your opponent directly when it does battle damage. Then you get to send a Sky Striker card from your deck to the graveyard, which is really good because then you just get to grab it back with your copy of Kangari because you can then summon this and then send Engage to the graveyard and then grab it back with Kangari, which is really good. We then play the same copy of Kaina. Kaina just plays a 1-of in this deck. If it's special summoned, then you get to target 1 face of monster your opponent controls. It can't attack until the end phase of your opponent's turn. And then each time you activate a Sky Striker spell, its effect, you get to gain 100 immediately this card resolves. It's an okay card. You just play it as 1-of. It's probably the weakest of all of the suits. So I just play it as 1-of in this particular build. I play a single copy of Zeke. Zeke is also very good in this particular deck, which is why I play Zeke as a 1-of. It has the ability that it must be link summoned, and you can only special summon Sky Striker a Zeke once per turn. And if this card is link summoned, then you get to target 1 face-up monster on the field and banish it until your opponent's next end phase. And then once per turn, you can target 1 other card you control. And this card gains 1,000 attack, and this sends the card to the graveyard, which comes in very handy with a lot of your different cards in this particular deck. We then play our boss monster, which is a single copy of Access Code because it gives us additional pops on our side of the field. This card comes in really handy to just pop a bunch of cards on the field. I really like this card in this particular deck. I play a single copy of Unicorn because Unicorn spins stuff. Unicorn comes in really, really handy in this particular build because you're going to be spinning cards left and right with your copy of Unicorn. 1 copy of Phoenix because it does pop spells and traps, which comes in very handy in this particular build as well. And then I play the same copy of Fire Charmer Ablaze. The Fire Charmer Ablaze helps me climb into some additional plays because this card can revive Ash Blossoms from the graveyard and then be able to go into a copy of Unicorn or even Access Code, which is really, really good. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a really fun deck. I really hope that you guys enter to win this awesome map. I always love giving back to the community and giving back to you guys because I know how much you guys appreciate it and love the deck profiles on this particular channel. It really warms my heart to be able to give back to you guys and just give something back to the community besides the deck profiles because it's just really nice to get the messages and be like, oh my god, I love this mat. I'm so glad I got it in the mail. I'm going to keep it forever. Like, it really warms my heart to actually send something to you guys, and I'm really glad that I'm in a position to be able to give back to you guys. And thank you, Apollo, for being able to send me these mats to be able to give to you guys. I'm really excited to do more giveaways on the channel. It's really nice and it's really fun to be able to do. And if you guys want to enter to win, definitely check out those official rules down in the description below. They're very easy. All you pretty much have to do is like the video, be subscribed to DarkArmedDuelist. It's based on an honor system, and you're going to have to comment down below what your favorite Sky Striker card is, which my personal favorite card, which I didn't mention in the beginning of the video, is actually Widow Anchor because of the artwork. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.